everyone, talk about finding your fairy tale and slaying some dragons to get there. Have you ever thought about just walking away from life as you knew it? You just say, you know what? I might just sell my house. I might just sell my car. I might sell off all my clothes. Well, I want to introduce you to a couple that did just that. You'll find them on Instagram as Wander Lauren and Wander Daniel, because that is exactly what they do. They have become modern day nomads, wandering the world before COVID changed everything for everyone, including them. And now they're on a new adventure across the United States. They have teamed up for an amazing cross-country trek, and it also supports local businesses along the way. So I just think it's such a cool venture that they are embarking on. Hey guys,
Hi.
where in the world, where in the country are you?
So we are actually in my hometown this week of Goodlettsville, Tennessee, which is like 15 minutes outside of Nashville. So, woohoo, yeehaw!
That is so wonderful that you have found a way to keep up your way of life, even in the midst of a global pandemic that has changed everything. I know that when this hit, you guys were trapped abroad pretty much, but we'll get to your story for everyone who's joining us in a little bit. First of all, tell me what you're up to right now and what that is behind you.
So this beautiful piece of metal behind us is our new home, and let me show you her. So we are in an RV park, and this right here is our Airstream.
Nice.
And we live full time in her now. Would you like a tour?
Yeah, let's see what it's like, because for folks who are joining, I mean, you have gone from Airbnbs to hotels to friends' houses to bed and breakfast all over the world. So this is actually more stable and more consistent than most places that you've been in the last year.
Well, in the last year and a half. So it's been a really interesting transition to have a real home, even if it is under 250 square feet and on wheels.
But you know how to live that way. You know how to live with not a lot of stuff. So let's see the walls. Let's see the space that you have. And then we'll talk about how you don't fill it.
Okay, deal. Fair enough. Mr. Fernandez, why don't you give us a tour?
Welcome to our casa.
I love it.
How cool is this? One of my all-time favorite spots right here, if I'm being 100% honest with you. Right there, recliner. I mean, what's better than that?
The couch, the recliner, yep. It's like a little 4 foot by 2 foot man cave.
Basically.
Basically, yeah. And it's loaded with tech, which is also really cool, too. See?
Hey, that's a fancy kitchen.
I know, right? Got a farmer's tub here. There's a lot of room to work with here. More than we're used to in some places in Europe, that's for sure.
Yeah, fancy
storage.
countertops.
Oh, yeah. This actually lowers, in case we have a guest, we can lower it and convert it into a bed as well.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Right? TV, which we don't watch a lot of. We spend a lot of time outdoors and doing things, but
Nice.
It's there if we need it.
Yeah.
Convection microwave.
Fancy.
3 burners and gas. So if you like to cook, you can appreciate the gas.
This was one of the things that I fell in love with this place for because of the kitchen, because I really enjoy cooking.
You can operate the entire thing in this panel, which is really cool. So, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is very high tech.
Fridge.
Yeah, totally.
So we can actually travel with some of our own goodies.
Yeah, which is something that you're not used to, because for a year and a half, you've been basically living out of 2 suitcases. And as you show me the rest of the Airstream here, how did this come to be?
Ooh, good question.
He's pointing at me. So when we got stuck in Morocco during COVID-19 in March, we had the ability to reach out to a lot of press and help get the stories out of the people who were stuck who really needed help. There were a lot of people running out of medications that they couldn't get. There were families separated. Like, there were heartbreaking stories. And so when we spoke to the media about that, it became kind of a big story. Our faces were on Google's homepage and on Donald Trump's son's Twitter page. So when we got back home, another local media outlet asked to do a story about us, and they asked us what we were going to do next. And when we started having conversations about that, we were like, well, we don't really feel like we can get on another commercial flight anytime soon because,
Right.
well, that didn't go so well last time. We didn't want to be the boy and girl who called wolf. So we started looking into ways that we could travel around the country, and having your own space where you can quarantine and kind of be in control of it felt right. We started talking to this media outlet about it, and they were like, well, wait. If you're interested in doing that, and also we wanted to find some way to like promote American-made business, like American-made products in small business, and they were like, you have to meet Airstream. Because A, their product is amazing and you're going to love it, but they're American-made. And so they introduced us to their corporate team. We told them about what we wanted to do, and well, here we are.
You're doing it. Yeah, you're doing it. And so I think that's cool. Not only are you getting to see the world a little bit, the world in your own backyard, our country, you're also making it be a platform to share the different encounters, the products, the services that you find that are basically the heart of shop local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So when it comes to Airstream living, is this what you expected? And does this feel like a home base?
I would say yes. I mean, we have everything that we would normally have when we travel and visit Airbnbs and Marriott's, minus the room service, of course. But but you have, full-size fridges, and honestly, this is more space than we really even need. Even though it seems small to most people, it's really big to us. And there's way more storage, and we can bring a lot more stuff than we usually do, which is kind of cool too.
Well, let's take it back to that, because you decided to live a minimalist life out of a documentary that inspired you. It's not like you lived a life that way all the time. You were like anybody else who has too much junk in their closet and too many places to be and too many unused appliances in your kitchen. So take us through the realization process that was not a life for you.
So let's see, that was in 2019. And we were actually, Daniel had started really getting into running and marathons, and we were in Savannah, and after a marathon, usually it's like kick back, relax, binge watch Netflix TV show. And we were kind of like in the middle of a series, like we didn't have a series we were watching, and started looking around, and we saw this documentary called The Minimalists, or Minimalism, I believe. And so when we saw that, we were like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. We watched it and I got addicted. When we got back home, I started just like slowly cleaning out like our kitchen, getting rid of things. And what I realized is that when I did it, the weight that was lifted off of just like the mental weight, the energy, it felt so good that we just kept doing it everywhere in our house.
You know what's so interesting about that is I think that there's a fear of, first of all, not even that you're going to, for me, it's guilt. It's guilt that I bought it in the first place. It's guilt that I own it. Maybe it's guilt that somebody gave it to me, or it's a memory of something from a time gone by that I used but don't use anymore. So I've assigned even more weight to these things.
Oh, sure.
And so I have a hard time getting rid of stuff. But I think that there's a process that you can discover. And, when I met you both for the first time, you said go in phases, like take it out of your closet and put it in the downstairs closet, put it in the garage, put it in so take us through the letting go process.
Well, surprisingly, it's a lot easier to get started than you think, right? So if you go to your closet, anybody watching this right now, if they go to their closet and you go deep into the back, there's almost always clothes that you haven't touched in more than 6 months. It's usually a good starting point.
I think I have stuff that I haven't touched in more than like 3 or 4 years, guys.
Oh, yeah. I believe it. I did too. When I started, I did too. I legitimately, so I graduated college in 2010 when we did this. So 9 years later, I had tons of shoes that I never wore that I got in college.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's how old. And like, I never used this stuff. but just sitting in the back of my closet, you know.
I think I just, put in the giveaway pile a pair of, turquoise, purple, something buckle heels from when I was 19 years old. And I was like, I don't even know how to walk. Like, I finally but the letting go process, what do you think it is for somebody who wants to simplify their life? In any way, maybe not as drastically as yours, but what has getting rid of your stuff done for your mentality? Why should somebody consider a little bit more of a minimalist philosophy toward life?
I mean, to me, it almost clouds your mind. It's kind of like mental fat, all these things, right? So every day you're surrounded by just stuff and distractions and junk. But once you remove away all of the distractions, you begin to focus on the things that are most important, especially when they're not in your everyday periphery. I mean, if you look at a common countertop, it's just filled with random stuff. And then, like, one of my processes when I started to cook was I'd have to clear out off the entire countertop before I even started, because there was no room. I'm like, where do I even slice a vegetable? There's no room, so I have to, like, clear off the
That's
countertop.
My life.
Right, exactly.
You move one pile to create a new pile.
Yep,
and it's not like we're all messy people, hoarding a bunch of junk. It's just, stuff. It's such a consumer culture, and we buy things, and then I think you invest in it, so you feel this obligation to keep it, even if you don't use it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that made us feel good is we obviously have our own agency or team back at home, and we started giving some of those things away to the people around us as well.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you do have a connection to some of those things, we'll give them away to friends and family, and maybe start there.
You find it a good home.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to give too. The art of giving as well. So that's usually a good stepping stone into kind of getting to the point where you give everything away. It's not like an overnight thing.
Yeah, so you start to trim that mental fat, as you call it, which I loved that. You trim that mental fat, and then you're like, you know what? We're going to go to complete zero mental fat percentage. Because not only did you start getting rid of your stuff, you got rid of your house.
We did.
We did.
Tell me about that decision.
It was almost like I did it.
She made that decision for sure. And it took me a while to get on board, but I'll let her talk.
Well, so basically we started looking around. The more I started getting rid of things, the more we realized that we were only using this like teeny tiny little portion of our house. Right. We had almost 3,000 square feet, and it's just the two of us. Mm-hmm. And we were literally living in the kitchen and the living room and our bedroom.
That's it.
And that was it. Like, it was literally all we needed, but we had all this. We had to clean all those other bedrooms. We had to and if we didn't do it, we had to pay for it. That wasn't cheap. So we started looking at all of the things. We had this big, beautiful pool in the backyard, which we never used. So it just started feeling like it was just more than what we really needed. And what we wanted to be doing was traveling and experiencing the world and doing new things. And we were spending all of this money on things we weren't actually even using. And we're like, what are we doing? And so we just realigned where we were spending the hard-earned cash that we were making with what we wanted with life.
And how did you know, for somebody who is trying to figure out maybe even how to get what they want, how were you so certain that this was for you? Are there some questions that people could ask themselves in terms of weighing out, what is the most important thing for them to spend money on? You must have laid awake at night being like, okay, are we crazy? Like, we're going to sell our house to travel the world. And you go through almost like this pros and cons checklist of is it worth it? Are we doing the right thing?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles to traveling globally, we thought at first, was cost, right? Mm-hmm. But then you start to look at your house and you're like, I've got a pool guy, a lawn guy, a pest control guy, I've got cable bills, I've got electric bills, I've got water bills. And you start adding it up and you realize the mortgage is just really the starting point for how much you're investing in a house. Right. And once you start eliminating all of those things, you start to realize it can be affordable.
But I think it's really a little more high level than that, because that's how we did it, and that's what made it actually operationally functional.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest question that we asked ourselves was, do we love our lives? Are we madly in love with the lives that we're living? And there were a lot of things that we did love about our lives. We loved our company and we loved the work that we were doing. We were passionate about that. But outside of that, we knew that we were passionate about traveling too. And did we love our home? Sure. Did we love it as much as experiencing the world? No.
Yeah. I mean, I think so when I was a kid, I used to volunteer at the hospital. And one of my jobs was to transport patients to their test. And one of my favorite things to do was ask older people for their experiences in life and like, what are the secrets to longevity? I would always ask, older people, like, what's your secret, right? And one day, one guy said to me, he was sitting there and he had a DNR and he was terminal. And he said, we're the authors of our own destiny. And he said, if you ever get to the point where you're in my shoes and you're looking back at your life and you're not happy with the story that's been written, there's no one left to blame but yourself.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes people feel that they don't have a choice. We all dream these big lives and we say, well, I'd like to travel the world. I'd like to sell my house and go, but I need health insurance, but I have kids who are in school, but there are a lot of restrictions. And so you in many ways are lucky that you were emotionally in touch with your wants and needs at a young age, where you could focus all of your career ambition into funding, your global adventure. But I think there's a takeaway from that, which is just to ask the question, am I wildly in love with my life? Which, Lauren, you said so beautifully. And what are the small things that you can do? So you know what, maybe you can't go travel across Europe, but what are the small things that make you happy every day? I mean, I'm in Florida because my husband and I, we would end our busy weeks in Boston, an amazing news town. It was a place that I could have stayed my whole life for its energy and its intelligence and the gritty people. I loved so much about it. But at the end of the week, we were exhausted. And our way of recharging is to be outside in sunshine at the beach and to have warmth. And we couldn't find it in winter in Boston. And winter in Boston is like 9 months, people. But so no, it's not that bad. But that was sort of our thing is are we in love with our life? And if you say most of it, that's great. But there are ways to say all of it, and you take that sideways step, not a backward step, not a forward step, but a side step. And I think that you guys were lucky to do it as young as you are, and that you met each other. Speaking of fairy tales, you have to tell everybody how you met.
Okay. So the story of how we met is actually quite adorable.
Quite adorable. It is.
I started what is now our company when I was in college. Problem with starting a business when you're in college is that you will forever be the college kid to all of your clients. So I had to move somewhere. And so I picked St. Petersburg, Florida, due to market demographics and very similar to you, the sunshine. And when I got down here 3 days later, I went to walk my dog at about 2 a.m. After having gone out with friends for some drinks. And
this is the moment where Cinderella loses her shoe, everybody.
Basically.
That's exactly
the hypothetical moment of losing the shoe.
Except in this story, it was a sandal.
It was a sandal. No, but so it was one of those apartment complexes where you've got like a scanny fob for this and getting in and out wasn't easy, is a long story short. And so I went down a back way because I just moved there. That was the one way that was easy for me to get in and out. So I go out this back door, and as soon as I open the door, I trip over this adorable little dog. And come to find out, the dog's name is Chance. So I tripped over Chance, and this handsome guy happened to be his owner.
You literally tripped over Chance. You stumbled into a Chance meeting. This doesn't happen.
Literally. And he was so suave, and I was definitely on the I'm a girl boss, I'm gonna go like kick butt, take names, boys suck train. But he was like, you really shouldn't be walking your dog in downtown St. Pete by yourself at this time of night. So you should give me your phone number. And plus, I have some friends who have gotten locked out of here. And I'm like, this is so logical that I should probably do this. So I give him my phone number. And the next day, he asks me if I want to go skydiving with him.
Really? That was your first date?
Yep. Skydiving.
I
loved it, and he hated it.
I've always said you have to match your crazy. And I've asked other people before her if they'd go skydiving, but of course, the answer was always yes, until I met this one.
You mean no? The answer was no.
Well, the answer was no. Yeah, I never. But I mean, literally, Yeah, but literally I asked her to go skydiving because I figured I would set the bar so high that no other guy could ever surpass it. And I figured 14,000 feet was high enough.
Well, the thing about it is it's so cute. And I'm so thankful that I did not know this at the time. But when Daniel went back up to his apartment, I went back up to mine. And he dropped his dog off, went 2 floors down to his best friend's apartment to tell him that he had met his wife. Daniel knew immediately.
Instantly.
Okay, so yeah, love at first sight exists, and you can meet somebody by chance. You found your fairy tale literally in like a stairwell of downtown St. Pete apartment.
Yep, that's how it happened.
How did you know? Because we actually don't talk a lot. We talk a lot about career. We talk a lot about pursuing your art and your passion and matching it and mingling it in with your life. But another big part of people's fairy tale is finding their community, their best friends, their spouses, their partners. So how did you know when you went downstairs and said, I met my wife?
I just had a gut feeling that I was going to do whatever it took to win her over. And I just couldn't imagine life without her instantly. I don't know what it was about that chance meeting, but that's exactly what happened. I mean, legitimately, the first date, we took a picture and I sent it to my parents. And I'm like, this is the one.
Wow.
Our first date. Yeah. My parents still remember that to this day. But I was probably acting a little silly at first, I'm sure. But I had a goal in mind.
No, I think that actually, I think it fits with your trajectory and your story. You guys clearly, you're in touch with what you want. And so you're listening to that and you're going with that gut instinct, whether it's a person or what you want to do, how you want to live your life. It's great that you're able to keep working remotely. I think that's a huge bonus for you because you run your own marketing company. You can do some of that from abroad, but you go back and forth, right? You always check in.
Yes. So this particular trip, we expect to be gone for a full 365 days. So, and really COVID has made that possible because our whole team has been remote since March.
Right. Isn't that weird? All of a sudden it doesn't, you realize that you don't necessarily have to physically be in the same room to get amazing work done.
It's really weird, but totally true.
It made hanging out like this normal. I don't know if before COVID, I would have thought that it would be fun to talk to people about how they're reaching for their dreams on Instagram Live. I probably would have been like, let me get them next to me in a room and figure out how I would have physical, like everything had to be current and in the same room. But now it's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you are in the world.
Yep.
Did you really live out of 2 suitcases only when you were traveling around? And are you still?
No.
Now you have a little more room, right?
Mm-hmm. We do. We have more room. So of course we actually have kitchen gadgets here. We cook our own food, which is nice.
Yeah.
We still have our suitcases with us, but they're stored in the back of our truck. We actually have a vehicle now since we had to tow something. Well,
that was kind of a necessity.
Yeah, it was a requirement.
Yeah. So you can, not always have to be in the Airstream if you need to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
It's not easy to back that thing up.
Not even a little.
How do you decide what you do need when you decide to go minimal? If you throw out too much, you can obviously invest in some replacements, but are there basics that if somebody wants to, let's say I wanted to really downsize my wardrobe or a guy wants to downsize his, do you have some staples that you would suggest they get and then you can just kind of modify those every day to look a little different?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that, you're always going to have staple pieces that you love. And I think that if it brings you joy, that you should have it in your wardrobe. I have pieces like that don't mix and match with everything, but I love them. I do not care. But that being said, if you want to really downsize your wardrobe and honestly, and especially when we were traveling in Europe so that we didn't stand out as Americans, we started buying things that were, solid colors that don't have brands on them that you can mix and match. And that makes it a lot easier because you can take one dress and turn it into a handful of things by adding, a kimono one day or, just leaving it off the next. So keeping, when you're looking at your wardrobe, keeping it simplistic from a standpoint of like colors and how things match, really make it a lot easier.
Yeah. The black t-shirt wardrobe, right? Where you can just wear the same color t-shirt every day and nobody knows.
That's basically me. Yeah, I have black, gray, and blue. And those are my primary colors. And they're neutral, non-branded, all V-neck. So I can wear it to dinner. I can wear it hiking. I can pretty much wear it all over and it fits in. So if you're looking to downsize, that's definitely one of the ways to do it.
And if you're looking to just pack light, can I put you on the spot and you give us a little crash course in packing? Because I've seen a lot of life hacks online. It's everything from rolling to, folding one thing inside another, and that works really well to get it in. And then I've done it and I get to the hotel and I'm like, I have a pretty little package of my clothes and I can't get to the thing inside that I need. It's like a gag gift where you put everything in a smaller box. So do you have any secrets to packing light?
So I have a few. First, I do the packing thing where I fold things together. And that is really significantly more helpful if you're going to be somewhere for, like, say, 5 days or more. Because then you can pull it all out. You can put it in, hang it up or whatever. And
it does. Great. The secret is it doesn't wrinkle it. Like, you put the thing that could wrinkle the easiest on the outside. So then by the time you've bundled, it basically creates like a pillow and you're stretching the cloth over it. So I found that it does work well for things looking nice when you arrive.
Yes. And also, honestly, the bundling plan means that you can pack more. So, like, when we were traveling, say, Europe for a full month and we wouldn't come back, I would bundle my stuff because I could get more in it, and we might have to have, tank tops and coats. So that works really well. But for packing light, weather always makes a difference. It's harder to pack light when it's, cold outside. But if you are packing and it's going to be cold outside, don't pack your coat. Wear your coat. Like, you can wear multiple layers, and airplanes and airports are always cold anyway. Not that anyone's going there very much right now, but that's a great way to not have, like, to keep like a international carry-on.
Doubles as a cozy pillow on the flight, right?
Absolutely.
You just bunch it all up.
Yes. So that's a really good, easy tip for how you can pack a little bit lighter if you just layer, especially if it's going to be cold.
That makes sense. Anything that you miss from having a big house?
It's funny. I asked Lauren that probably a week or so ago, and the answer has been no. We don't miss it. We really enjoy this life of ours, and the fact that we get to move locations as often as we'd like, go explore the outdoors. I get to get up every morning and run in a new place. I mean, it's just awesome, really.
Do you ever worry about, society tells us that we're supposed to do certain things by certain milestones. So do you ever worry, like, oh gosh, I haven't built my equity in my house. What happens later? But these are things that they don't work for everyone, but we are taught that they are important to do. So do you ever get worried about not putting down roots?
Not really.
You're like, not till now, Sorboni. Thanks a lot. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we need roots. Not really. Don't have really the urge. That's come up in conversations we've had as well. Like, will we ever settle down? And I don't know what the answer is to that.
Well, I think also one of the things to remember is there isn't only one way to build wealth. So just because we don't own our own home doesn't mean we aren't investing in real estate. Or, other opportunities for us, like our company and other investment opportunities that just aren't maybe traditional.
That makes sense.
As what you would think of as the standard. But, that's.
But ultimately, accumulating a lot of wealth isn't our goal. Our goal is to live an experience-rich life. I mean, to us, that's the most important thing.
Not what you have, but, what you're able to see and do and feel. If somebody wants to do what you're doing, either at the complete level of, I want to offload my house, I want to save that money, or they just want to start doing, the big trip, the safari. And I'm talking about this, like, I'm assuming that we will get this horrible pandemic in our past, and I'm speaking to the future, obviously, right now is just strange. But somebody wants to plan the big trip to the Galapagos Islands to the Barrier Reef to Mount Everest, whatever, that big bucket list trip. How do you start making the plan to make that possible when you feel bogged down by all of this stuff in life?
Well, I mean, an Everest type trip, because we've looked into it, is a potentially a several week long, potentially month or longer trip. We started with just taking a week off and just disappearing. And then the following year became 2 weeks off and disappearing, going off grid. And then it became 3 weeks. And we eventually got to the point where we were gone for an entire month. And, you know, life goes on. And we realized that we can do it and we can be gone for that long. And our friends and family will still be here when we get back. And they're still going to love us. And when we get back and connect with them, it's going to feel like no time has passed. I mean,
I think it's also really important that you don't get too caught up in the big behemoth of a trip. I think it's wonderful to have bucket list items. But the really beautiful thing about travel is the new learning and experience that you get from it. And you don't have to travel to Timbuktu to get that same thing. Sure, it may not be, you know, if you just drive an hour south, if you're in St. Pete, you know, maybe you're in Sarasota for a short weekend, but you're getting away and you're learning to relax. Most people in our culture have no freaking clue how to relax. So if you decide that you're going to go on that big bucket list thing and you save up for a year or whatever you have to do, you getting there is not going to automatically mean that you are relaxed and having fun. If you do not know how to do that in your real life, it's not going to translate there either.
It's true. I mean, it's a cultural thing, and you having traveled so many different countries, you know that it is kind of a uniquely American thing too, to be like, gotta go, gotta check my email even when I'm on the beach. I remember I was with my best childhood friend in France, and I was working on a novel and she was working on her thesis, like at a beachside restaurant, hotel, little place that we were staying. And you know, the French guy comes down, he's like, "This is holiday." And we were like, "Yes." He's like, "What is this? What is this?" Like, it was like the worst thing he'd ever seen, to see computers on holiday. And we're like, "Yeah, you know, good point. We should probably put these away." But we were both thinking like, cool, life is slowed down enough that we can pick up some of these other things that we've been wanting to do. But instead of just looking at what was right in front of us, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing. We had one of our viewers right now ask a question: would you live this way if you had children? Do you think that you could sustain it? I mean, I actually interviewed a family on the news that does it. And they thought that their kids were too young to take them all over the world. And they started with a 3 and 1 year old traveling the world, you know, full time. So it's doable. Do you think it's doable?
Well, I think first we have to set the caveat that as we are not parents, we cannot speak to the amount of crazy that we know that is. We literally just saw my nephew this morning and like decided he wanted to have a meltdown because we left early and I didn't get to see him. So like, we know that we have no concept as adults without children what that would be like. But that being said, we do want to have kids one day, and we do expect to keep our lives pretty similar. I think that when it comes to having kids or any other adventure that you're taking, you have boundaries in your brain that you think make things not possible. Breaking those down in advance and choosing to deal with the hard stuff when it comes, I think, is the way that you get around it. So we do have friends. I have a girlfriend of mine who actually lives in an RV right now. She has 3 little children. They're so cute. And they're doing it. So we know it can be done. We hope that we will be able to do that someday. But would it be challenging? Absolutely. Would we be up for it? Totally.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know if it's honestly any more or less challenging than if a kid has a meltdown on the airplane. Is it any less embarrassing than if they have a meltdown in the grocery store? And if they're sick at home with 104 fever, is that, you know, any less scary than if you're abroad? I mean, I guess it depends where you are, but it you know, I come from a perspective, though, that my parents started taking me to India. My mom's from the US, but my dad's from India. They started taking me to India when I was 6 months old.
Wow.
And I have a younger brother, so it was part of our life that we would sit on the airplane before iPads, before video, like nothing. She had a huge bag of coloring books and markers and candy and everything. And, you know, we did our 36-hour trip to India and back once a year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what kids are used to. Maybe if a child has never been on a big trip like that, it would be like, whoa. But we were just like, okay, this is when we have to sit for 10 hours straight, and the air is kind of smelly, and the food is yucky, and we're bored, and mom and dad fall asleep, and then we're even more bored, and now my leg fell asleep, and now my brother drank too much pineapple juice and got sick. Like, yeah, you know, it just becomes a part of your life in terms of fitting it in. But you know, it's cool. The small silver linings of the pandemic, that now virtual learning is a thing. So you could conceivably, you know, usually people will say, oh, well, I would travel, but when the kids are in school, you know, I would leave them. But now there are ways to kind of take these leaves of absence here and there and come out on the other side and be caught up as a student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing that'll stay. My mom used to take all our books from, she'd say, what did they need to be on when we return? And we went away for 3 months once. And I came back and I was like, all right, I did my math. I wrote my journal. You know? It worked. It worked. I graduated. I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be a good way to raise kids. I guess we'll find out
different.
someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can read about a place in a book, or you can experience it in real life. You know?
It's so true.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about seeing right now on your trip?
Well, I think one of the things, so we've seen a lot of the U.S., but it's really different to do it via a car, because most of what we've done is from seeing the United States is, you know, you fly into a big city, you hang out for a week, you do all the things, and then you fly back and go home. And because we're on the road and traveling, we're getting to see more of the country, and it's so beautiful. So I can't say that there's any like one thing we're really excited about, except for like seeing the states that we haven't ever been to. That's really exciting. And then also just getting to like meet the, you know, socially distance, of course, new people, and just the overall, like one of the coolest things that we found. So we've been officially RV life for 2 weeks as of today. And like one of the things that we have been so excited about is what a real community this is, and one that we did not even know existed. So obviously we have never, before 2 weeks ago, we had never stayed in an RV in our entire lives. So there was a massive, and still is a big learning curve into how you figure out, you know, that you have a home on wheels. So when we first started, you mentioned earlier having to back our home up. So when we move into an RV park, we're backing up a 30-foot trailer, and it's kind of intense. So
I might be like, okay, I'm only gonna stay here if I can drive straight forward in. If there's backing up involved, I'm gonna just have to keep driving to the next place.
It's intimidating. I mean, everybody's outside, and you know, our campgrounds, and they're watching you, and you feel like you're being judged. But you know what the reality is? As soon as I went to back in, everybody in the campgrounds was there to help. That's exactly it. Everybody jumped out and they were helping. And I mean, it's such a wonderful community.
They're so nice. Like literally, we have not met a single person who is not like, give you the shirt off your back kind of people. So we have absolutely loved that part of it. Just getting to meet people from all different walks of life and experiencing a new community, because that's exactly what it is for us.
Yeah.
And now people are, because, you know, you're living a unique life and you were stuck overseas at the beginning of COVID, you know, people, you're on people's radar. Yeah. What do you hope to do with the platform that you're building? You know, what's the message that you want people to get out of sharing in your adventure?
Well, I think the number one message that we want to get out right now is how important it is for people to be shopping locally. Buying American-made products and services so that we're putting food on the table of our neighbors. That is pretty much our main goal with all of this. Shopping local isn't always as easy or as convenient as it is to, jump on Amazon and order whatever it is. But when you do, you're legitimately putting money back into the communities that you're in. And that's an important thing. We need that, especially as our economy struggles right now.
Yeah.
Do you think you come at that from the perspective of a small business owner in a relatively tight-knit community?
Of course.
Yeah.
Definitely. As small business owners, like ever since even before we sold all of our stuff and started traveling full time, we've always, when we've traveled local, looking for local places to stay, looking for local restaurants, local places to shop. So we want to show people that it's easier than they may think to do exactly that, so that we can help support small business owners.
Yeah, to get off the beaten track. My husband always said when we'd be traveling, he'd be like, oh, too many people are speaking English in this place. We have to go somewhere where nobody's speaking English. That was like the rule, because then you knew you were getting the real food.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're getting to experience the real authentic culture.
Yeah.
Exactly. Has there been a place where you were like, okay, we're in over our heads ever?
Recently, I would say that is definitely Disney's
No.
campgrounds.
I see Lauren laughing behind you.
Yeah. Okay, so I had the brilliant idea of researching like the best parks to go to, campgrounds in Florida, because we were starting off in Florida. And Disney just fit the bill. I mean, it was perfect in every way. And we decided to launch on Labor Day weekend. Also a really great idea. #1 popular destination, holiday weekend. When we pulled into the campground, I can barely fit my truck. There were so many cars. I mean, it literally, it took us over an hour.
What's going through your mind? You're like, okay, hello, COVID. Like what? Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And even though the spaces are separated, there were just like each campground had their own family visiting, maybe their close family, like their parents or whatever it is. I don't know, whatever was going on over there, it was cray. I mean, it was hard to park that thing. There were so many cars.
Okay, I think I need to jump in and say at this point in time that Daniel did not actually park our RV. He gave our entire rig, truck, Airstream and all to a very nice gentleman who actually parked it for us. I'm really thankful that he was a wonderful human, because he could have just driven off with our home and truck. Daniel didn't even bother to sit in the passenger seat for it.
I didn't even care at that point.
It was hilarious.
I didn't care at that point. Literally, I was, there's like 3-point turns. I was on like turn 300 before I finally tapped out. And the guy's like, you want me to park it for you? I'm like, take the keys. I don't care if you drive off in this thing.
You were like, take the keys, take the whole thing. I don't care.
Just, I'm done with it.
Let me grab my 2 suitcases. That's all I need.
Yeah, basically.
That's exactly.
Guys, do you have a favorite fairy tale?
Ooh, that's a good one.
After the Aladdin movie came out, people said that Daniel looked like Aladdin.
That is a very good movie.
I guess it's, Where are you guys from originally?
Aladdin's a good one. We had completely different upbringings. I wouldn't say I was poor, but I wasn't rich either. Lauren comes from the other side of the spectrum. And that is maybe why the Aladdin story kind of fits in with our story.
Okay, I wasn't like really a princess, but we'll go with that.
To me, she was a princess. Yeah.
Like you would have used your genie wishes on meeting her.
I would have 100%
and winning her over.
done that. I would have 100%
done
that.
Aladdin.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about doubts? We've talked a lot about chasing all of the happiness. And I think that you guys sound like you've been so busy chasing the dream that you don't even have time to waste on the doubts, but they creep in for everyone. What would you say are your biggest dragons that you need to slay, and how do you approach that from getting in the way of your happiness?
So I think it's a really good point that you bring up doubts, because we're always the kind of people who will think, okay, we think we've got a good idea, maybe we should just jump. And this whole RV lifestyle was definitely one of those things. We got the right connections, people introduced us to this idea, and all of a sudden this like random thought had created real legs. And as soon as it got really real, we were like, holy crap, what did we just do?
Right.
Oh my God, this is going to be insane. We have no idea what we're going to do. We're probably going to break it. And granted, we already have broken like 100 things. We knocked out a tail light and have like killed a couple fuses.
Never happened.
Like all of the things.
We won't tell Airstream.
No, they know. And they also knew we were newbies when we started, which was definitely helped from the doubt perspective. But I mean, we were scared. I think in the last 2 weeks, right before we left for being full time, I mean, we were legitimately like picking at each other and being like, you know,
a little stressed. Yeah.
Totally stressed.
I was having nightmares about driving a 10,000-pound like thing behind our truck. I mean, that's nerve-wracking. So I was literally losing sleep.
I moved with U-Haul trailers being pulled, and that's complicated enough. Where like you back this way, it goes that way. You're like, what? Burn through a ton of gas. I mean, it's a whole different beast. It really is.
I mean, we were terrified and scared and had doubts and all of those things.
And when we got here, like literally the first couple of nights, it didn't get any better. It was just more like, oh my gosh, we were right. We knew we were going to be overwhelmed, but this is so intense. But I think it's perseverance. Allowing yourself to be nervous, to be scared, to be stressed, but knowing that the end goal is something that you want. And pushing straight through it anyway.
I mean, honestly, that first week, I had so many doubts. I thought to myself, should we continue on with this journey? It is just so much to learn so fast. But then, you know, the other day I was sitting there with Lauren and I told her, this is the best day ever. I mean, literally, we're up in the mountains and we had just come back from a hike and life was so amazing at that moment. And I thought to myself, now that made it all worth it. That one moment, you know, and many more moments now. Since.
You just had a learning curve. You had a learning curve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you still might.
Right. Oh, definitely.
If you were to finish the sentence to find your fairy tale, you know, to find your fairy tale, you need to. Is there a way that you would approach it from your experience?
Believe in yourself. If you want to find your fairy tale, believe in yourself.
What about you, Daniel?
Before you could ever be a perfect match for somebody else, you have to be comfortable with who you are as a person individually, because that other person is never going to fix you. And I think that's important. We need to be comfortable on our own before we can be comfortable with somebody else. So being comfortable in our own skin and with who we are is so important.
Yeah. Believe in yourself and know yourself.
And know yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Two simple things that have taken you guys, you know, across the world and back again. Yeah. I can't wait to just watch your journey, and I'm going to keep, you know, tuning in on Instagram, and other people will too, I'm sure, because you're always open and honest about all the drama, all the fun. And yeah.
And there's lots of that.
We don't hide anything or shield you from anything. It's just raw and it's real.
And can you guys can you help me? Will you challenge me to get rid of like some things? Because I started to at the start of the pandemic, and then guess what? I put all these clothes in like 3 bags, and then I thought, well, maybe I'm only getting rid of them because we're dressing more casually because of the pandemic, and not because they actually don't fit and are from Boston 10 years ago. Maybe I will wear that like the one long sleeve, super heavy green dress that's way too warm for Tampa, but maybe on a Christmas it'll be cool. It'll be 50 degrees and I can wear it. Help me say goodbye. Okay, help me say goodbye. I need you to check in every so often. Like, just comment underneath one of my pictures and be like, Did you throw out that stuff? Did you give it away? Did you give it to a good home?
Well, and there's a really good home in Tampa for things like that called Dress for Success.
Yes, they're wonderful.
So that's another really good tip. Even if you don't have friends or family that you want to give it away to, find a local charity, especially women's like work stuff. That's a great.
Yeah, I've given to that one too. And then a really cool, just kind of chance thing, a former nanny of my kiddo. She gave a whole bunch of our old news stuff to girls in her village in Honduras for when they graduated, and then they were going into the city for their jobs. And they sent us pictures of a fashion show of all of them. Like, and it was so cool. It was like,
that's
and
amazing.
They revamped the dresses. They made them look better. They mixed and matched them with heels and bags and jewelry. And I was like, that is such a better place than my closet where it hasn't zipped in 7 years, you know?
And how did that make you feel when you saw that?
Great. So I didn't have the guilt of, I bought this, I'm supposed to keep it forever. Right. But I'm also thinking I need to crawl through my kitchen and be like, yeah, this appliance.
Just let it go.
Let it go. That is your anthem. Guys, you're the best. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And anytime you want to check back in, you know how to find me. We'll check in. We'll chat anytime. You're always so much fun.
We have lots of crazy and fun adventures ahead. You'll want to touch base for sure.
Good night, guys. Be safe. Have fun. And we'll check in and see in a couple months if you've collected too much stuff.
Deal.
Good point.
You won't. I will. Good night.
Okay.
Good night. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Wander Daniel and Wander Lauren is how you can follow their adventures as they go across all 50 states in their RV. And just really great thoughts on how to get rid of the clutter of your life. I loved what Daniel called it. He called it the mental fat. You just need to burn that all away. And when you have an emptier space, you have more room to be yourself. And you know what? Whatever fairy tale you're trying to find, whatever dragons you're trying to slay, you could probably do when you have the space to see and dream it. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you next time.